The man who will decide whether your vote counts in 2027, his own email address may have just exposed him. While everyone is busy arguing about fuel prices and ASSU strikes, nobody is asking the quieter, more dangerous question. What happens to Nigerian democracy when the referee is secretly playing for one of the teams? Here's what we know. An X account, username at Joash Amupitan, was allegedly used during the 2023 elections to cheer on the APC and celebrate Tinubu's victory. INEC came out immediately and said, "That's not our chairman. He has no X account, total fabrication. Case closed," right? Wrong. Because open source investigators went digging, and what they found links that account to an email address that reportedly appears on Professor Amupitan's own curriculum vitae. So the question isn't just, did he tweet? The real question is, if the man running Nigeria's elections has been lying about something distraceable, what else is he not telling us? Stay with me, because this story has layers. Before we go deeper, if you are just finding Naija news feed, welcome. This channel exists to break down what's really happening in Nigerian politics without the noise, without the spin. Hit that subscribe button right now, and I mean right now, because the only way this channel grows, the only way I can keep bringing you this level of research and analysis is if you subscribe. It costs you nothing, it means everything. Now, let's get into it. Let me give you the full picture. Prof. Mahmood Yakubu served as INEC Chairman for 10 years, from 2015 to October 2025. When his tenure ended, Nigerians waited anxiously to see who President Tinubu would nominate to replace him. The INEC chairmanship is not a small appointment. This is the person who will oversee the 2027 general elections, the most consequential vote since 2023. In October 2025, Tinubu presented 58-year-old Prof. Joash Amupitan, a professor of law from Ayetoro Bede, Ijumu local government area of Kogi State, to the National Council of State. He described Amupitan as apolitical and a man of integrity. That appointment immediately sparked controversy, but most of it was about ethnicity and nepotism. The deeper political questions were buried. Then, fast forward to April 2026, just days ago, and a screenshot begins to circulate on X. It allegedly shows an account bearing the name Joash Amupitan reacting to APC election results in 2023 with the words, "Victory is sure." The post was reportedly in reply to an APC leader celebrating wins in polling units described as opposition strongholds. INEC immediately responded, calling it a malicious and coordinated campaign of calumny and stating categorically that Prof. Amupitan has no X account and has never engaged in partisan commentary. But that denial cracked almost immediately, and that's where this story takes a very different turn. Let's understand what is actually at stake here, legally and constitutionally, because this is the part most commentators skip. The Nigerian Constitution, under the third schedule, establishes INEC as an independent body. The INEC chairman is appointed by the president on the recommendation of the Council of State and must be confirmed by the Senate. The key word is independent, and the law tries to protect that by requiring that the chairman not be a member of any political party at the time of appointment. SDP's 2023 presidential candidate, Adewale Adebayo, made this important legal point. The requirement is non-membership of any political party at the time of appointment, not that he could not have voted, had opinions, or been affiliated in the past. So, technically, even if those tweets existed, they may not constitute a legal disqualification on their own. But here's where it gets complicated. Adebayo himself added the critical caveat: if it is traced to him and he denies it, then it raises questions of integrity. If you are already lying to the public and we are to trust you with determining election outcomes, then it becomes a question of credibility. That is the real institutional crisis, not whether he tweeted, but whether the head of Nigeria's electoral body is capable of lying about something verifiable and what that means for 2027. INEC has now announced plans to engage third-party forensic experts to investigate the authenticity of the posts, with the Director of ICT, Lawrence Bayode, saying the commission will not make a hasty judgment based on social media images. A government agency hiring forensic investigators to probe their own chairman. Let that sink in. Now, if what I just laid out surprises you, drop a comment below. I want to know your take before we get to the part that changes the whole picture. This is where we stop reacting and start thinking strategically, because nothing in Nigerian politics happens by accident. First, the appointment itself. Many citizens pointed to a growing list of strategic positions held by individuals from Tinubu's region, including the Chief of Army Staff, Inspector General of Police, Customs Comptroller General, Immigration Comptroller General, EFCC Chairman.
Let's zoom out, because what's happening here isn't just about one man's Twitter account. Nigeria's democracy has a legitimacy problem. After the 2023 elections, the Supreme Court ruling, the protests, the widespread feeling that the system was gamed, Nigerians are already deeply skeptical of electoral institutions. Amupitan was supposed to be a reset, a new face, a chance to rebuild trust before 2027. As one political analyst stated, this is beyond a single post. It raises serious questions about institutional integrity, noting that the credibility of INEC is closely tied to the perceived neutrality of its leadership. And then there's the religious dimension, which is real and cannot be ignored. The Supreme Council for Sharia law in Nigeria has stated that it will not accept or recognize any election conducted by Prof. Amupitan, calling for his removal. The council speaker, Sheikh Bashir Aliyu Umar, said Nigerian Muslims would not legitimize elections under his leadership. Sheikh Sani Yahaya Jingir of JIBWIS described the appointment as a risk of the highest order, alleging that Amupitan had previously made statements that accused Muslims of violence against Christians and questioning why such a person was entrusted with national responsibilities. Whether you agree with those positions or not, they represent a significant block of the Nigerian electorate, in the north especially. If large sections of the population declare in advance that they will not accept elections conducted by this man, that is a security and legitimacy crisis waiting to explode. The real economic implication here is often missed. Foreign direct investment, multilateral loans, and Nigeria's credit ratings are all partly indexed to political stability. If 2027 produces another contested election, another round of Supreme Court cases, street protests, and a divided national mandate, the naira, the bond market, and investor confidence will all take a hit. The Amupitan controversy isn't just a political story, it's a business risk. This section matters because Nigeria's elections don't happen in a vacuum. The United States, the European Union, and the UK all deployed observer missions in 2023. Their reports were diplomatically worded but unmistakably critical of INEC's performance. The late transmission of results, the technical failures, the opaque announcement process, all of it was documented. The ADC has signaled it will escalate its petitions to relevant institutions both within and outside Nigeria, which likely means the AU, ECOWAS, the EU, and potentially the UN human rights mechanisms. For Nigerians in the diaspora, particularly in the UK and US, the message is this: the 2023 election was not a one-off. The structural conditions that produced it are being reinforced, not reformed. If Amupitan remains under this cloud going into 2027, international observers will arrive already skeptical, and a skeptical international community makes it harder for any Nigerian government, regardless of who wins, to claim legitimacy on the world stage. There's one person who has been almost completely silent throughout this entire controversy, and that silence is itself a political statement. Who is it? We'll come back to that. Let's be fair. Let's stress test the other side, because that's how you actually understand the story. Misconception number 1. This is just tribalism. Some people are dismissing the concerns about Amupitan purely as ethnic politics, northerners opposed to a Yoruba chairman. That framing is lazy. The core issue isn't his ethnicity, it's the specific digital evidence and his institution's response to it. You can have a Yoruba INEC chairman, you cannot have a dishonest one. Misconception number 2. INEC denied it, so it's fake news. Tech expert Bengase-san raised a direct challenge to INEC's categorical denial, pointing to web archival platforms such as the Wayback Machine, which reportedly stores snapshots of an account bearing the name Joash Amupitan, and noting that social media account creation typically requires a verified email address or phone number that can be technically traced. A denial is not evidence, especially when forensic investigators are already contradicting it. Misconception number 3. Even if he tweeted, it's legal. True, technically, but governance is not just about legality, it's about trust. A doctor who secretly owns shares in a pharmaceutical company isn't doing anything illegal until they start prescribing that drug. The appearance of conflict is the problem before anything else happens. The strongest argument for Amupitan staying. His academic and professional credentials are solid. Removing him under pressure from opposition parties sets a dangerous precedent that any chairman can be hounded out of office through a social media campaign. That argument has merit, but it only holds if the forensic investigation clears him completely. If it doesn't, the argument collapses. Here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody in Nigerian politics wants to say. Both the APC and past opposition governments have treated INEC as a captured institution. This is not new. What is new is that in the social media age, the evidence of capture is harder to erase and the public appetite for accountability is much higher than it was in 2015.
What happens next? Here is my read, based on the facts we have. Most likely scenario in the next 30 to 60 days. The forensic investigation INEC has commissioned will either clear Amupitan completely, at which point this controversy dies down and becomes opposition talking points, or it will produce inconclusive results, which is effectively the same as a guilty verdict in the court of public opinion. Watch for these signals. 1. If the National Assembly, specifically the Senate, begins scheduling hearings on Electoral Commission oversight, that signals Amupitan's position is weakening from within the establishment. 2. If Tinubu personally distances himself from Amupitan in any public statement, even subtly, that's a sign the presidency has calculated that the association is becoming a liability. 3. If more civil society organizations formally call for his removal, the international legitimacy pressure increases significantly. Best case scenario. Forensic evidence completely clears Amupitan. INEC uses the episode to launch a credible digital transparency initiative and the institution emerges slightly stronger. Unlikely, but possible. Worst case scenario. The investigation is inconclusive or suppressed. Amupitan stays in office under a permanent cloud. Opposition parties begin boycotting or preemptively rejecting INEC processes, and 2027 produces a contested result that the Supreme Court cannot cleanly resolve, triggering a constitutional crisis. Long-term impact if nothing changes. Nigerians will continue to vote with diminishing confidence that their votes count. Turnout will decline further. And the real winners will be the political class, who prefer a demobilized, cynical electorate that doesn't show up. Who is the silent player? The one person who has said almost nothing publicly throughout this entire controversy. The National Assembly leadership. Senate President Godswill Akpabio and Speaker Abbas have been conspicuously quiet. They confirmed Amupitan. They have the institutional authority to demand answers. Their silence is not neutral, it is a choice, and that choice tells you everything about where their interests lie. Let's close the loop we opened at the beginning. I asked you, what happens to democracy when the referee is secretly playing for one of the teams? Here is my measured answer. We don't yet have definitive proof that Prof. Amupitan personally operated that X account.
What we do have is a digital trail that forensic investigators are actively examining, an institutional denial that has already been challenged by credible technical evidence, a chairman appointed by the very man he may have been publicly cheering for, and an opposition that is for the first time in years making a coherent, evidence-based case for his removal. That is not nothing. That is in fact a 5-alarm warning for Nigerian democracy heading into 2027. The question is not whether Amupitan survives this controversy. The real question is whether Nigeria's electoral institutions can survive another cycle of captured referees, whether the name on the door is Amupitan or anyone else. I want to know what you think. Drop it in the comments. Do you think Amupitan should resign? Do you think this is a smear campaign? Is Nigeria's democracy strong enough to survive 2027 regardless? Let's have that conversation below. If this breakdown gave you clarity on what's really going on, do me one favor. Share this video with one person who needs to understand what's at stake. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it now. I'm not going to lie to you. Subscriptions are the only way this channel survives and grows. Every subscribe tells the algorithm that this kind of serious, researched analysis matters. It's the only way I can keep doing better work for you. So, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay sharp.